Whether you're making a battle animation or NSFW animation or something in between, sometimes you want to rip clothes. Let's see how we can accomplish this. So here I have a test scene with a piece of cloth and an armature. The two sides of the cloth are pinned to the armature and the cloth is being stretched out by the deformation of the armature. Now what I want to have happen here is for the cloth to split at some frame, let's say frame 40. This is relatively simple to accomplish, for example with a geometry node setup. However, there is one problem. Let me show you. So at frame 40 the cloth splits just as we want. However, the motion of the cloth is not as we would expect. I'm not sure exactly what is happening, but it looks to me like the cloth is basically jumping to its rest position. I tried other methods of splitting the mesh as well, and the results were the same. I don't know if there is a way to fix this. I think this might be a limitation with Blender. If you know something I don't, leave a comment. With that being said, let me show you my workaround. So the only solution I could find at this time was to always have the mesh be split, and to assign the split vertices to the pin group. Let me show you the exact setup in case you're confused. So the mesh is split like so. At the site where the vertices are going to split, there are duplicate vertices. This mesh has 4 vertex groups. 2 vertex groups for the bones. Like I mentioned, these contain the left and right boundaries respectively. A pin group for the cloth animation. This contains the left and right boundaries as well as the vertices that are going to split. And a vertex group containing just the vertices that are going to split. In this case, I've called this vertex group hold. To split the vertices, we're using a vertex weight mix modifier. The vertex weight mix modifier allows you to edit the vertex weights of a vertex group procedurally. In this case, we want to edit the pin group based on the hold group. I've keyframed the mix mode on frame 40 and set it to add. This leaves the pin group unaffected. On frame 41, I set another keyframe and set the mix mode to subtract. In this case, we're subtracting the hold group from the pin group. As a result, the vertices in the hold group are no longer pinned. The result is that we get a nice elastic split. One problem with this method is that we get an artifact where the vertices are going to split. This is because these vertices are not part of the cloth simulation. It's possible to fix this, but let's leave it for now. Now let's see how we can apply this effect to our model. If you're following along, I recommend that you copy whatever piece of clothing you're going to be splitting. To begin with, I once again created those 4 vertex groups that we had in our test object. Once again, I will have an armature drive the cloth simulation. One thing that may be a source of problems for us here is the fact that we're using 2 armatures on one object. As far as I know, this is not super well supported in Blender. For the moment, I didn't encounter any problems, but I'll let you know if I do in the future. The modifier setup is as follows. Notice the weld modifier at the end. This helps us avoid discontinuous shading where the vertices are going to split. Make sure to have a collider or some other solution to avoid clipping. Here's what we got so far. So the effect seems to be working, but there's 2 improvements that I want to make before I end the video. The first is that I want to have the breasts react to the split, and the second is that I want to be able to animate the character armature while the split is happening. Let's start with the second one. This is quite simple. We just need to parent the armature that splits the cloth to the character armature. Now you'll see that even if the character armature moves, the split happens without problems. Make sure that your object is parented to the parent rig, so in this case the character rig. Now let's work on the breasts. You can accomplish this in a lot of ways, but let me show you my way. So the way I'm going to be doing this is I'm going to be using the same armature that we created, the one that splits the cloth, and we're going to edit the influence of the modifier to effectively create a pulse. So once again, I created the same vertex groups as before, one for each bone and one containing the vertices of both bones. In this case, I thought it would be appropriate to have the nipple lead the motion of the breast. So the vertices that are bound to the bones are the nipple vertices. By the way, in case you're confused what object we're actually working on right now, this is the breast cage that we use to transfer cloth physics to the breasts, i.e. the target of the surface deform modifier on the body mesh. Okay, so once again, we add the armature modifier and a weight mix modifier. Now to create a pulse, we're actually animating the global influence parameter of the weight mix modifier. In this case, I set a keyframe at frame 40 where the influence is 0, then at 43 where the influence is 1, and at 46 where the influence is 0 again. The mix mode is set to add. And just like before, we're adding the vertex weights to correspond to the armature bones to the pin group. Okay, let me show you the result. So what do you think? I think it looks pretty decent. That's pretty much it for this video. I'm not super happy with this video. The method that I showed you works, but it's kind of brittle and it's hard to use. I would still like to find a better method to do this. I'll make another video if and when I find something better. I also have one more video planned on this topic. In that video, I'll show you how to make little rip effects. Like imagine you got hit with a sword, how would the cloth look after that? That kind of effect. So yeah, look forward to that. Subscribe if you're interested, and I'll see you next time.